Leave it to Studio White Fox to start off the second half of ReZero Season 2 with a 28-minute episode that does not have an opening or an ending song. Like, truly, we do not deserve, White Fox. We do not deserve the amount of passion that this group of animators and everyone that is a part of ReZero's anime project puts into this series. It is just so rare to see a series treated like ReZero. I've said this time and time again, but just once again, just seeing this second half start off with just that long of an episode, it's just crazy to me. It really is, and it really shines. It really shows the love and passion and care that is put into this series, and we're already starting off right with this second half. So, yeah, it's been a bit. It's been a long while since, ReZero was coming out on a weekly basis. We had to wait for an entire whole season to end, the fall of anime 2020 for this season to begin, and we're finally here for winter of anime 2021. And, man, I could cry. Like, I legitimately teared up, like, when I saw the episode release and I just started watching it, because I love ReZero. I get emotional talking about it. I love chatting about ReZero. I've pretty much made this very clear for a while now, how much I love the series. I could just talk about this series for hours. That's just how much I love it. And even as someone that has read the web novel, knows what's going to happen, it amazes me with just the high level of quality that is put into the anime. So much little, details of foreshadowing, things that you wouldn't even probably notice properly within the light novel / web novel. There's just so much that is put into this series that, like I said, I love it. And I think many have come to that conclusion as well alongside me, that ReZero truly is a classic. It is basically one of those series that people are going to look back on 10 years from now and be like, this is a classic anime. This is a series that people need to watch, and I will definitely be pushing that for as long as I can, because that's just how good it is. But okay, let's get into this. So, we sadly did not get an opening song for the first episode of, ReZero Season 2 Part 2's, series. We didn't get it, which is understandable. We sacrificed the opening song for content, and I think that has definitely worked out greatly for ReZero since the very beginning. And it's one of the things that really makes the opening song and the ending song of this series so special. When you hear the song, you're like, whoa, like it really hits you, the emotions behind it, the way the visuals play behind the scenes when something like really important happens. Like, don't even get me started with how, season 2 started off with that opening song towards the end of the episode with, Ekidana just, open up her hands, you see the lights float around her. That was one of the best opening, scenes I've seen for an opening song since, like, JoJo Part 3. I really love that opening song's usage. It's sad that that song is now gone, because now we have a new opening song for Season 2 Part 2, which, no problem, but I wonder if we're gonna get it a little bit more than the other opening, or if it's going to be just as scarce. We'll see where that goes. But for the time being, though, I do like the musical choice they did at the beginning with Strange Bet from Myth and Royd. I believe that's how you pronounce them. It's a song that we have all heard before from ReZero. We've heard it from the first season of ReZero, Strange Bet. It's a really good song. Everybody will probably recognize it as soon as it starts playing, when Subaru confronts Rosewall and starts talking to him about, the supposed bet he wants to make with him. That song is so great. It fit this entire scene perfectly. Honestly, that song, I feel like, was just destined to be applied to that scene. It's unreal how well that song goes with that scene with Rosewall and Subaru confronting each other, and Subaru coming back to meet Rosewall with a little bit more of a happier, upper, tone, like he doesn't feel as depressed or down anymore. He has some hope in his eyes. It's such a great scene, and that musical choice really made up for the lack of opening song that we got for this episode. But okay, so let's get into the main stuff at the beginning, which is this so-called bet that Subaru made with Rosewall. At this time, it's very vague. It's obvious that there's some things that we don't fully understand about this bet, because when you really look at it from a different perspective, you're like, wait a minute, like, if Subaru dies, if he hypothetically does indeed die, he will eventually come out on top and win this bet against Rosewall. While Rosewall, all he does is stand to lose, because it's like, for instance, even though he doesn't know Subaru has returned by death, he knows Subaru can reset in some shape or form, and because of that, he's like, Subaru could just reset, and this entire conversation, this bet we have, can be completely undermined. So what stops Subaru from resetting and just completely breaking the bet, even if he loses that time frame that he has to be able to save everything, save the mansion, save Amelia, save Sanctuary, everything, what if he fails that? And many might come to this conclusion, what stops that from happening? But obviously that's left very vague, and we'll probably find out later on. But for the time being, though, this bet shows that Subaru doesn't want to let go of everything that he holds very dear. This is the conclusion he came to at the end of the first half of Season 2, when he had this whole, dilemma going on with, Ekidana and Rosewall, and how they were slowly shoving him into a corner, trying to make him literally give up everything for the end goal. For instance, maybe getting Amelia as, the person that should sit on the throne or whatever. Sacrifice everything to achieve what you want. You could throw everything aside. That's what made Ekidana such a monster. That's what made, someone like Rosewall such a monster. They're like cut from the same cloth, and they were trying to push Subaru down that path. That was definitely something that they were trying to do, corner Subaru, and Rosewall wants Subaru to become a monster, something that isn't necessarily even human anymore, but Subaru obviously flat out denied that. That final sequence of the first half of Season 2, where Subaru's scared, shaking, he backs out of the door, he's like, I won't become like you, I won't be a monster, whatever. Basically, he's like, I can't become you, and he had a huge wake-up call that he does not want to go down that route, and so when he confronts Rosewall, he's like, look, I know it's greedy, I know what I want is the ultimate form of greed, but I am not going to let go of the things I hold dear to me, all these precious things that are near me, I will not let go, which is a nice little nod / callback to what Ekidana said to Subaru in their final conversation, where she's like, oh wow, you're really showing a lot of greediness in you, and she shows like a true smile for the first time, and then he even offers advice to Subaru in that moment, like, look, Garfield, he's scared or whatever, and she gives a little bit of like hints of what maybe Subaru can do, and it was probably the first time that Ekidana really was trying to be truthful and actually not gain anything. She was just truly admiring and respecting Subaru for who he was, and Subaru obviously realized this within this episode, what Ekidana was saying, but also on top of that, he realizes it's greedy, but he does not care. He's willing to go through trial and error, pain and suffering, to be able to make sure he doesn't lose anything, he doesn't lose himself, and he doesn't lose those around him. I love that. It's a really great little nod to that development he got from the first half of Season 2. I know many might not care too much about that, but that's one of the reasons why I think many that do love ReZero love it, is because of the growth that Subaru goes through. He changes. He really does change. You can vividly and visually see the changes in Subaru's demeanor as the story progresses. For instance, you go back to the beginning, he was this jokester clown that's always messing around, making fun of, himself, kind of the way he acts, doing weird poses, and then he slowly kind of settles down and reality sets in, and he's changed quite a bit. And it's interesting that he acknowledges himself as a clown towards Rosewall in their final little discussion. He's like, look, Rosewall, put that clown makeup back on and all that. Like, it's really throwing me off my game. You gotta put that clown makeup back on because we're both clowns. And that's interesting that Subaru acknowledges himself as like a jokester, someone that is being played with by fate itself, and there's nothing he really can do about it. And he acknowledges that he looks like a clown, he acts like a clown sometimes, and Rosewall also acts like a clown, but also he is someone that's very intelligent. And it's kind of like a comparison there, is that Rosewall and Subaru are very similar. You could easily mistaken them as jokesters, people you can't take too seriously, when in reality, you need to worry about those two the most. And I appreciate it. There's so much to really gain from the dialogue with that little convo between Rosewall and Subaru. I mean, the whole demeanor shift. I mean, once again, Subaru coming in with a smile on his face, hope in his eyes, and Rosewall looking very confused. He's like, wait a minute, what? Like, I did not expect you to appear before me for right now. I expected to never see you again, at least for, like, this loop, but here you are. And the shock on Rosewall's face is very telling. He had no idea. He didn't know what to expect. respect, which basically shows that the book that he holds dear to him is not telling him properly of what's going to happen within this. Like, something's going on there. He did not expect Subaru to be there whatsoever, which is really nice. It's a nice little detail to show that Subaru is slowly gravitating away from what Roswaal wants to actually happen. Now, another thing, too, to get into is the Oto stuff. So, Oto. I've been waiting so long to be able to talk about Oto in the anime for these episode reviews, because Oto, oh my god, I've loved this man ever since I read the web novel and I saw this for myself when I was reading it. Like, I vividly saw it in my mind, this scene where Oto confronts Subaru and they have their little discussion, they have their brief little fight, and, you know, Oto just tells Subaru like it is, make him actually realize what he's been doing and how he actually needs to rely on someone. I love the entire scene. It really just goes to show how great of a character Oto is. And to kind of reinstate things in case you have forgotten, there's a lot of symbolic things surrounding Oto that is similar to Subaru. So let's get right into this. As we know, when it comes to Oto, it's clear that he looks at Subaru like a friend. He feels indebted to Subaru because Subaru saved him from the witch's cult, saved him from Sloth, and that's why he's even alive at this point. If it wasn't for Subaru going out of his way and initiating the whole battle plan of taking down Sloth in the White Well, he probably would have died. He realized this, and he's like, man, this man did all this for me, a man he didn't even know, and then on top of it, he takes me here under his wing, he trusts me and all that. He's like, whoa, this is kind of crazy, and he obviously feels a lot of respect towards Subaru. He looks at him like a friend, because he saved his life, and that's something you would obviously think if someone did save your life. And Subaru, obviously, his perspective is very different. His first meeting with Oto is very different than Oto's first meeting with Subaru, because we've got to remember the different loops, the different timelines. It goes back to Amelia and Subaru's first meeting. If you remember, in the first episode of ReZero, like Season 1 first episode, Subaru encounters Amelia in the alleyway. She saves his life. It comes when he's down on the ground, he doesn't know what to do, she saves the day. But then after that loop, and after she dies and he dies, that sequence never happens again. That first meeting never is redone ever again. And so the first meeting Subaru truly ever had was lost to that loop, and Amelia doesn't even know about it. But Subaru always mentions, it's like, I'm very indebted to you, you saved me and all that, and I feel so much respect and admiration for you. And Amelia always acts very confused, and she doesn't understand, because from her perspective, you know, she met Subaru that saved her for no reason whatsoever, and they got a job at the mansion. She's like, what's going on here? So that shows the similarity to Oto and Subaru. Oto's first meeting with Subaru was Subaru saving his life. It's like putting Subaru in Amelia's position, and Oto was in Subaru's position, and Subaru doesn't really comprehend or understand that weight, and that's why I love Oto's character. It's such a great moment to shine for Oto, to show that how much Subaru's changed, but also to show how Amelia feels from her perspective when Subaru's like, oh, you saved me, and why she doesn't understand. It shows that Subaru is also very faulty for that reason too. He might not be able to understand that completely too. So yeah, it's just a lot to take away from the Oto stuff. But to get into the simpler stuff of it, I really think that little fight between Subaru and Oto was actually incredibly symbolic too, because when he gets pushed onto the ground, like he falls face first, and they're like, you have Oto really deconstructing Subaru, like saying how he is as a person, how weak he is, etc., how he's been acting and all that, and you can see Subaru's kind of like getting a little bit angry, he's getting emotional, obviously he's very emotional after everything that just happened, and he does care about Oto, but then he shows an uglier side to himself. He grabs the dirt on the ground with his hand, and he slings at Oto, and you see Oto guard his face from the dirt. Now, this is something that people are easily going to overlook and not think too much about. It's like, okay, yeah, Subaru threw dirt in his eyes, and then he still got beat by Oto. Oto still won. But the point, though, is that was a nod to Subaru's fight with Julius. If you remember Julius from the first season, the one that has the spirits that helped out Subaru against Sloth at the end of Season 1, helped him kill Sloth, Julius was the one that beat the crap out of Subaru. That was the knight. And he's like, look, you don't honor a knight. The way you act is just really disrespectful towards knights and all that. And he beat the living crap out of Subaru. It was in a way to save Subaru's life, but he still did it. And Subaru, in that fight, he threw dirt at Julius's face, and it was a very disrespectful act, the way he acted within that fight. It was something that really just showed the ugly nature of Subaru in Season 1, and seeing Subaru grab the dirt again and sling it at Oto shows once again that ugly nature that is within Subaru. It's a nice nod to that, showing that even though he has changed, he can still backtrack a little bit into some old habits if he is forced down that route, and he needs people around him to be able to pick him up to not go down that path anymore. It's a really great symbolic and little nice scene they threw in that I think many will not respect or understand because it's just so quick. But yeah, okay, enough with the Oto stuff. I'm sorry, I get carried away. I love talking about ReZero, and like I said, I could just continuously talk about one scene and just really dive into it and rip it apart and all that. But okay, let's get into some simpler and easier stuff to understand, and that is the Puck and Amelia stuff. Now, this scene is also very vague, very similar to the bet with Subaru and Rosewall and what's really going on around that. But for the most part, Amelia loses Puck. And this is obviously one of the most emotional scenes of the episode, and maybe one of the most emotional scenes of the series, at least from Amelia's perspective. And honestly, as a viewer, for me, it is a very emotional scene, because Puck has always been this character like a father figure to Amelia for a very long time. If you look at their interaction since Season 1, Puck has been this protective father figure, and you could see that he does go out of his way to protect Amelia. He isn't perfect at protecting her, obviously. Amelia's died in a few loops, but you can see that Puck does deeply care. And clearly, we can see that he's been hiding from Amelia for certain unknown reasons. We don't really know the full reason to why Puck has been doing what he's been doing throughout Season 2, but he has actively, from what he admits, tried to break the contract between him and Amelia. He's trying to break that contract, and the reason why he's trying to do this, which once again we are left unaware of the full extent of why, he wants to unlock Amelia's memories. Apparently, with their contract, somehow Amelia's original memories were sealed up. And so she isn't really able to access what really happened in her past. And that's why she has forgotten. And most likely the reason why she struggled so much with the trial. She's denying everything, doesn't even understand what's going on probably in the trial with Ekidana, because she doesn't even know what the past she's probably seeing. So when you just look at everything, it makes a lot of sense why she's been having a lot of trouble with the trials. But to go one step further, why were these memories sealed? Why did Puck actually make a contract with Amelia to seal these memories? The question that is definitely something many are going to ask after watching this episode. And why did he actively want to break the contract for her to finally accept it? Did he feel like Amelia was ready now to finally face these memories? Or was there some external factor that came into play that Puck was forced to actually do? Which this goes to Subaru. We know that Subaru and Puck had a conversation, but obviously we didn't actually get to see it for ourselves. They talked about something probably for a good long while about whatever's going on with Amelia, which probably led to what Subaru's actions were towards the end of the episode when he up and left the bedside of Amelia when she fell asleep, and then he randomly appeared at, the trial, the graveyard and all that where Amelia was hiding. It definitely has something to do with that. When you just look at the conversation, it was completely cut out. The question is, what did Subaru talk to Puck about? And at the same time, did Puck tell him anything? Did Subaru gain anything from that conversation? Whatever the case may be, it's a huge mystery to everything, and we're about to probably find out a lot of details on Amelia, and I'm just gonna say this one last time. I've been saying it constantly when I make ReZero videos, but I want to say it again. I really, really urge you, if you love ReZero, okay, if you really do like ReZero, go out of your way and watch the OVAs, especially the Frozen Bond OVA that focuses on Amelia. It shows Amelia after she wakes up from being frozen and when Puck finds her. It's a really good OVA, gives a lot of details on Amelia and kind of how she was and how lonely she was, etc. It shows a lot. It shows a little bit more of the connection that Amelia has with Puck. So if you like ReZero, you like this episode, and you want more ReZero content, go watch the OVA. It will give you so much needed details on everything going on, a little bit more context. But okay, to carry further on though, so the memories were sealed up, and Puck has lied to her about something. We don't really know. He's kept secrets and all that to Amelia, but probably for a very good reason. But once again, we're probably going to find out now. And it's exciting. It's really exciting to just see Amelia finally getting the character development that she deserves, because technically she is the main female character. I know it's kind of shocking, especially with all the great other female characters we've had throughout this series. I mean, Rem is a really good example of that. And so it's nice to see Amelia really stepping up and getting that time to really shine. I mean, Season 2's first half really showed that, and now we're getting more of it with the second half of Season 2. So, I guess let's get into the Ruzu stuff, with the whole lollihag. So, she reveals that there is actually 4 supervisors, 4 main clones that are watching over Sanctuary. However, one of these 4 clones actually is no longer able to do those duties of watching things because apparently she broke her contract with the witch. And the only witch we know of, obviously, that's a part of this entire Sanctuary, is Echidna, the Witch of Greed. So, she broke the contract and went into the graveyard, the trials, to be able to grab Garfield and drag him out. That's what was stated. Now, we don't know the exact details of everything that happened there. We just know that she was not supposed to go in there. She grabbed Garfield, brought him out, and Garfield was able to probably wake up and, experience whatever he was experiencing, coming to terms with his past. This lets us know now why Garfield is so scared, probably, or why he doesn't want Subaru and Amelia to bring down the barrier of Sanctuary, because he's probably scared of whatever he saw in his past, whatever he saw with his mother. And it's clear that it's trying to state that he cares about his mother, because his last name is a direct reference to his mother. He carries his mother's last name, which shows that he cares about her. So the question is, what did he see? And if he did see something, is that the reason why he doesn't want Subaru to break the barrier? Why Amelia, he doesn't want her to break the barrier, and why he's so against it? And if so, is he scared of the outside? Is that what it is? Is he scared of leaving Sanctuary because it's unknown? He doesn't want to accept the past or reality? A lot of questions there. But, I think, though, the whole 4 clones is interesting, too, because it shows that, once again, the clones are not perfect. They're not just machines that are following Echidna's rules and contracts. They're willing to go out of their way and do what they want. And seeing Shima do something like this shows that she's gaining her own individuality, like she's being an individual. And that's important, especially with a story wrapping around these clones and how they have their own personalities. They've been there for so long that they're actively changing and doing things that their purpose wasn't really meant to be. So it's cool. It's really cool to see stuff like that. So I guess the last thing to really talk about before I wrap up this video is the scene with, Subaru disappearing from Amelia's bedside and Amelia running off and hiding within the trials, in Sanctuary. You see that Subaru manages to find her, but the question is, why did Subaru leave her? But on top of that, what is Otto actually going to do against Garfield? Because, let's be honest here, we've seen Garfield's strength. He might not be able to survive the Witch of Envy, but at the very least, Garfield is very powerful. Probably one of the strongest, he is the strongest entity probably within the entirety of Sanctuary besides Rosewall, because we saw Rosewall take off his head. So, we could definitely say that Otto against Garfield, that's not something that's makes sense, because Otto is incredibly weak. He's a very frail boy, and so it makes you wonder, how is he going to be able to keep Garfield there and continue talking with him, especially since Garfield has shown that he's very, very smart. You might assume he might be someone that's kind of dumb or not know things, but he is very aware of things that go around him. I mean, we get to even see a brief inner psyche scene, getting to see what he's thinking when he visualizes the 2 cups on the table, thinks about Subaru in the conversation, and that most likely Subaru, grabbed Ruzu and all that and started talking with her, abducted her, and that's why he couldn't find his granny. That's probably what he was thinking. And so you can see that he is able to comprehend things. He's able to come to different plans that are he understands, what's going on around him. So he's not dumb by any means. So how is Otto going to outsmart this man? So we'll see in the next episode. But that is pretty much it for this episode of ReZero. It's fantastic. I'm so happy to be able to talk about this. It brings me life. It brings me great joy. And hopefully all of you enjoyed this video. I love talking about this, and hopefully you guys like listening and all that. And just tell me your thoughts in the comments below, how you felt about this first episode of the second half of ReZero. I love you guys. Be safe. Stay healthy. And with that, Chibi out.